Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, and as always, thank you so much for being here. Good topic? Let's do it. What's your deepest, darkest secret? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe. I couldn't pick up the pieces after my divorce. Would go weeks without showering or brushing my teeth. I found my baby blanket from my youth in a trunk and wrapped it around myself that night. Best sleep I had in years. I keep it in my bed since then. I'm a 42-year-old man. I've lived a boring, non-secretive life, but my great-grandfather once told me a story of when he killed a man with a baseball bat for trying to rob the bar he owned, and the regulars at the bar stashed the body somewhere, and nobody ever talked about it again. He then put his finger to his mouth and said, "Shh, don't tell anyone." So there you go. Sorry, Gramps. Everyone at my job tells me everything, complains about each other to me, and I just agree with whatever they say regardless of what I actually think. Nothing feels real to me, and I sometimes wish I could be hit by a car on the way to work so I could be out for a week or two. When I was maybe 7-ish, I went to the grocery store with my mother. When she was checking out, I went to turn the gumball machine to see if anyone left quarters in there and didn't spin it all the way. Well, one of them was broken, and I spun the sucker until my pockets were full of gumballs. When we got in the car, my mother asked what was in my pockets, and I told her nothing. She still knows nothing to this day. She did, however, say, if one of those machines was broken and you just kept turning them, that's stealing. I sure fooled her. I stole my brother's Ghostbuster t-shirt and made an email account from the shirt napper to ransom it back to him as a mystery for him to solve. Unfortunately, he died a few weeks later before never noticing the emails. My dad had a bad pot pipe made of wood in the garage. I used the smoke out of it all the time because he didn't realize I knew it was there. Anyway, I didn't have a lighter one day, and I used a blowtorch in my garage to smoke out of it, completely destroyed the pipe. About 15 years later, my dad tells me about how he lost this pipe he made in a shop class in the 70s. Oops. In 1996, I was 6 years old, and a friend told me that computer mouse balls were worth as much as gold. Stupidly, and with no plan, I stole one from the classroom computer. Our teacher got extremely angry, and I got really scared I'd get caught. He had us all leave the room and go in one by one so that whoever stole it could anonymously put it back. I was too scared that somebody might see, so I didn't put it back. He exploded on us. The next day I was going to try to secretly return it, but a kid randomly, emptily confessed that he was the one who stole it, and his mom went to the store to buy a new one. He stood in front of the class with a written apology and everything. I should have taken a stand and said, "No, Kyle, you didn't steal it. I did." Shameful. Anyway, 28 years later, Kyle is a stripper at a gay nightclub. Live in the only major urban center in a very rural area where there's all kinds of suburbs, road construction, gravel pits, etc. Whenever I see heavy equipment that doesn't get moved or is left unattended, I sneak into the worksite at night, climb in the always unlocked bulldozer or whatever the F it is, and proceed to lay on the horn in the dead of night before scrambling away. It's been a decade since I started, and I think now I'm honk the horns of just about every type of heavy machinery that has one. In grade 6, 1986, we were asked to write a short story during class. I wrote as much of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy as I could in the hour provided. I knew it word for word. I got as far as the interior of the Vogon ship before time ran out. I have the type of OCD that makes me think I'm a pedo. I have never touched a child, and never want to. The thought of it disgusts me, but I get recurring intrusive and very unwanted thoughts about it. When I had my son, I almost gave him up for adoption because of the horrendous fear that I would hurt him somehow without realizing. I'll look at a little girl's hair and go, "Oh, how cute." And my brain goes, "Wow, look at you, clearly an artist. There's something really wrong with you." I was SA'd as a child myself, so I think it was just a weird way my brain coped with it. To be afraid of causing that pain to someone else so much that every action is a potential sign that I'm capable of hurting a child like that. It became extreme, and I limited a lot of my life to try and prevent something I wouldn't ever do. I didn't learn it was OCD until well into childhood. Once I realized they were just intrusive thoughts, and they didn't define who I was, it sort of lost its power over me. But I've only ever told my husband. I did some super sketchy spying on a girlfriend and discovered her plan to kill me and run off with her affair partner. Edit for the quick version. Figured she was cheating, which she went to great lengths to deny. Rolled the dice on my gut and decided to risk being a complete piece of shit was worth it. Had a close friend give me a crash course with some extremely intrusive tech and confirm the affair, of course, but then discovered she was spending a lot of time figuring the exact amount of tetrahydrozoline it would take to kill someone with my specific height and weight. She tried once and missed me, got my best friend instead. Less than 36 hours later, he was in the ER. She evidently tried it again a few months later when we both had COVID and locked ourselves in for 2 weeks. They're married now. My friend has to take a pill for the rest of his life as long as I live. I'll never again underestimate how needlessly cruel people can be, even when they're telling you to your face that they love you. I want my dad to die. My dad is a piece of shit. He's tortured my mom and myself since childhood. He has had chondrosarcoma, bone cancer, for 4 years now. I have no remorse for him suffering from this. I'm rather angry that my family has to suffer because of it. I just hope it all comes to an end very soon so I can live a peaceful life. It's emotionally exhausting. In 3rd grade, I cheated on my history exam. In 4th grade, I stole my Uncle Max's toupee and I glued it on my face when I was Moses in my Hebrew school play. In 5th grade, I knocked my sister Edie down the stairs and I blamed it on the dog. When my mom sent me to the summer camp for fat kids and then they served lunch, I got nuts and I pigged out and they kicked me out. But the worst thing I'd ever done, I mixed a pot of fake puke at home and then I went to this movie theater, hid the puke in my jacket, climbed up the balcony, and then I made a noise like "hoo," and then I dumped it over the side, all over the people in the audience. And then, this was horrible, all the people started getting sick and throwing up all over each other. I never felt so bad in my entire life. Back in the day, I would go to Walmart and Kmart and wipe the hard drives of every PC on display once every 2 or 3 weeks. I did this for a couple of years. I taught a friend to format from the C prompt, and he started doing it too, and he taught a person. After a while, all the PCs on display at the mega store for like 20 counties around us were periodically being formatted and erased. Years later, I was talking to a guy who had worked for Walmart for like 30 years, and he was telling me how someone used to format all the PCs in the 2 Walmart he worked in. He worked in the 2 counties I frequented most. Funny thing was, they actually set up a sting operation to catch the felonious formatter, and dude was paid overtime to walk the electronics section as a plain-clothes customer for like 3 months. I never caught the person, even though I'm pretty sure I was still formatting the drives periodically. Somehow, we missed each other. For the record, I was only blowing off steam, and figured that what I was doing was harmless shenanigans. I'd never been in any kind of trouble with the law, and I didn't grow up to be a serial killer, but every now and then, when I walk through a PC store, I get the itch. My wife is the one for me. We're like one person split between 2 people, 2 bodies and 1 soul. Wifey completes me in every sense. She's kind, smart, funny, reserved, and amazingly graceful. For the world to lose a soul like hers would be a terrible tragedy. She sparks life to everyone around her. She makes people happy and feel loved. Complete strangers have expressed their gratitude for her genuine kindness. However, she is significantly ill and riddled with autoimmune diseases. She often referred to as the patient who won't die. A rheumatologist and I have become remarkably close friends, break bread with one another every week or so, and we share the same PCP, who has also become a close friend to me. Since COVID, I am no longer able to stay in the hospital with her when she's admitted. Anytime she has to be intubated for her breathing, the nurses always set up her iPad so I can see her and talk to her. Though she cannot hear me when she's under, I speak and have conversations while looking at her still and almost lifeless body. I respond to her questions and comments. I laugh at her jokes, tell her how much she's loved, and to somehow find her way back to me. To open her eyes once more and give us both just one more minute together. I cry uncontrollably. I watch her through the iPad every hour of day and night. I usually pass out while doing so, wake up and continue the ritual. I struggle with suicidal tendencies. Even our children worry for me. I'm worried for me. My wife's doctors are worried for me. I've done everything possible one could probably do in this situation. It feels like there's a timer slowly going down for both of us. My darkest hope is that I pass in my sleep with her. When I was a child, I managed to get a speech therapist fired. I was in speech class up until high school, but this happened around 3rd or 4th grade. I don't know what her official title was, but she was not the speech teacher I would see regularly. She was an older woman, probably around her 60s, I believe. She was there to examine how well the speech therapy had been going in the district. She had me read sentences with the sounds and letters I struggled with. As this was happening, she mocked me, and she laughed at, while telling me I had the weakest tongue she'd ever seen. As a child with speech impediment, I was already self-conscious, but for an adult authority figure to belittle me like that, it made me never want to speak again. Once the school day was over, my mother noticed I wasn't very talkative. Eventually, I broke down and I told my mom about the whole situation. She called the district and threatened legal action. We were notified soon after that the woman had been fired. There was even a phone call between my mom and the woman, where she had begged my mom for forgiveness so she could keep her job. I suppose none of this is really a secret, just something I don't talk about often. Her own actions are what led to her termination. However, secretly, I do hope I ended that woman's career, as callous as that may sound. You don't mock a child, and you especially don't mock a child for something they can't control. To do so when your career has you working with children shows you're unfit for that role, says you. Well, maybe you were right. Maybe she deserved it. But was it truly your place to decide? I mean, you were young, so it's fine, but that's a life-altering thing that happened. But, I understand. I have a fart fetish. Girls farting at night something feral in me. I want to be rid of it so badly it's like a curse. I want a real girlfriend. I want real love. Here's the darkest secret. A girl I know who's really beautiful knows I have a crush on her. So one day I asked her to do this, totally consensually, and she agreed to it. I asked her to fill up on whatever she needed to. Beans, beef, broccoli, eggs, anything that would make her fart. Well, she did, and had some dairy to kick in. She's lactose intolerant. And then come over, and I got a gas mask, and I taped a tube to the mouth. Then taped and sealed the other end to her butt. We hung out sitting next to each other at my place, and the whole time she was letting out the most foul, lactose-intolerant, turbo-injected farts into the tube for me to breathe in. I made her swear to never tell a soul, and she didn't. And no one knows I did that. But now let it be known that you all now carry this tale. You all think you have demons? Think again. When I was 11 years old, I had an upstairs neighbor who was in the Marines. I idolized this guy. He was in my mind the real American hero. He'd pull up in his Jeep Wrangler and step out in his crisp camis looking like G.I. Joe. He was polite to my mom and my dad, always saying good morning, sir or ma'am. He had a wife who was friends with my mom and a little daughter, 6, who was friends with my little sister. We'd go fishing and camping and hiking, and one day he introduced me to shooting. I was aware of guns but never actually saw them up close, let alone shoot them. He taught me how to use a rifle with a very easy to shoot .22 LR. Anyway, one night he was away and my sister and I were upstairs hanging out with his wife and daughter, watching TV, eating Cheez-Its, just being kids. The mom is in her room, we're in the living room. My sister and the daughter go play dollhouse, and I got curious and started looking around. I found the rifle in a black canvas bag in a closet, So naturally, I opened it up, take the rifle out, and took it to the balcony, where I proceed to go prone and look down the scope. I kept thinking to myself, whoa, it's even better when you're up higher. You can see all kinds of stuff better. Wow. And look at that car passing by. And of course I'm aiming at it, and I have my finger on the trigger, and for some reason my stupid 11-year-old brain never imagined the rifle was loaded and ready to fire. So as I'm aiming at the car passing, and it's maybe 80 yards, the car is traveling slowly. I pull the trigger. The round hits the rear passenger window, shatters. The vehicle drifts to the right and crashes into a border wall. I'm horrified. Get up, rush back inside, quickly stuff the rifle back in the bag, place it upright in the closet corner where I'd found it, and as this is happening, I can hear the mom getting up and going, "What's going on? What was that?" My heart's racing. I just quickly closed the closet door and ran. I left the apartment quickly and went downstairs to my place, ran inside, ran to my bathroom, and hid in the tub with the lights off. Oh boy, the aftermath. There was an active manhunt. There were police and helicopters and searchlights. They came to knock at the doors. My dad was working, and my mom had left us up with the upstairs neighbor to go run errands. The upstairs lady had no idea what had happened. They asked her questions, but she said she was sleeping and only heard a pop. I heard later on that drive, this actually hit, and there was an open investigation. Later on, a week after the incident, G.I. Joe comes downstairs to see if I was around because he wanted to talk to me. We took a walk, and he told me that he knew it was me. I never slid the bolt back to eject the spent cartridge, and it stayed in the .22 the entire time. He said he wouldn't say anything, but that I was not allowed back upstairs ever again, and that he was disappointed because I broke his trust. They moved shortly after, and I never saw them again. I never told anyone, and the guilt ate me up my whole life, but I was too scared to tell the truth. So from 5 to 9 years old, I was always afraid to go number 2 in our house with a very accessible bathroom. I would hold it for hours to the point of crossing my legs and holding on. I would therefore have a brown streak that my mom had to clean. Until one day, it all became too much, and my dad screamed, "You want to act like a dog? Then I'll treat you like a dog." And he rubbed the soiled underwear in my face. I did stop because it was so humiliating. Discovered 36 years later in therapy that he was most likely SAing me in the bathroom. I've never told another soul about this. Oh.